I hope to have a great future here. NVIDIA has been coming to China for 30 years. As you know, China is the second largest technology market in the world, and it is also growing very quickly. And so this is a very important market. There's a lot of very dynamic and innovative customers. If you want to be a good supplier, a good company, you have to have excellent customers as well as excellent products. And so in China, we have very challenging and very dynamic and very innovative customers, and we want to be able to serve them. And so I will continue to do that.
That's NVIDIA's Jensen Huang in Beijing overnight on doing business in China, Jim. Interesting. One report said he told the reporters he would love to buy a Xiaomi car, for example.
Well, look, one of the things that I think that we all are trying to figure out is how could he, a pure globalist, I mean, he's a globalist. Jensen once, he went to a lot of countries that Joe Biden had put on a list that said you couldn't even sell him stuff. People forget that Biden was far more cloistered than Trump when it comes to this. I mean, Trump goes to the Gulf states and he brings Jensen. So Jensen is a salesman, as well as a statesman, as well as an architect, as well as an engineer, as well as a genius. And he knows, look, he has to tell the story. And I think that there's a commonality, some commonalities that say no Cold War. No hot war, certainly no Cold War. And he's one of them.
It's not, I mean, you've been no fan of the Chinese over the years. No, has he helped your own view about selling to the Chinese evolve?
Yes, he did. He got me thinking that perhaps that we should be thinking more about them needing us. And when they need us, which happens very rarely, we should be there. And we can dominate, and they can write everything on us, or they can write everything on their own stuff. Better that they write on us, better that we be the reserve currency of tech in the world. And I think if you take a look at MP Materials, and you see how that has gone up, that's a sign that we're worried. The Indonesia deal, that was about Grasberg. That's the largest copper mine in the world. We're worried. We don't have these assets that we should, because in many ways we ceded production to China. But we never ceded production in the most important end of all, which is semiconductors. ASML, boy,
I was going to bring up ASML.
They don't let ASML have the great ones. That was such a stupid thing. People say it's weakness.
Falls by the most since April. They do blame some of these trade disputes. They do argue that some of these loosening of controls might help a little bit.
I think it will, but ASML's got semiconductor capital equipment, and they've got the key, the holy grail of some of these some of the chips. But look, I think that Jensen's doing exactly what the president might want. There are people in the White House who said, does he spend more time in Beijing than he does in Washington? No, he spends more time going around the globe proselytizing America. That's what he does, proselytizing America. And so to have him to unleash him is great. To leash him is to say we are America first only. And I think you may think he's not part of the ethos of the president, but it was the ethos. The president directly said he could do this.
Right.
It was the president. It wasn't his advisors. It was the president. And people have to recognize the president thinks that this man is good for America.
Right. To the chagrin of some of his advisors?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And some of his advisors, well, I'm known as a China hawk for whatever it's worth, who I am. That was from my old days of Kudlow and Kramer. It's not like a new thing. It's from
Our next guest says this is not just good news for NVIDIA, but for AMD as well. Ben Reitzes of Melius Research, head of technology research, joins us here at Post 9. What a remarkable week. And it's amazing to watch him sort of thread this needle between American interests and definitely selling to the Chinese market and the Chinese.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're seeing what you get with one of the world's best CEOs of all time, maybe the best, and the intangibles you get, how he threaded this needle, how he went and did the right thing for the company, the world, and the shareholders all in one. It's really wild. And he turned Trump around, and then he obviously is dealing with the Chinese, and he's hustling. And I've never seen a guy work so hard at, just at this consistent pace. And it's really amazing to see, and it's a privilege to know him.
This is for a man born in Taiwan, right? There's a nice report this morning where he told some reporters in Beijing that he would love to buy a car from Xiaomi. it's just a different tone, but it's he's managing to ride both waves at the same time.
Yeah, he has a way with people too. He makes people feel special, and Jim Cramer's talked about it, but it really is true. And I think he has a way of rubbing off people, and you're seeing it. And this has been an amazing diplomatic effort by NVIDIA, and it's paying off. Let's hope it continues to pay off. And I'm pretty optimistic that they're getting not only 10% of sales back, but even more. It could be up to 20. They do need to continue to get approval for chips as we go throughout the Trump presidency. But, I'll never put something past Jensen to be able to do so.
I know you're an equity analyst, and so you're analyzing the impact for the stock and the revenue for NVIDIA, which is all positive. But are there valid security concerns for why these were banned in the first place that will eventually come back and bite us?
Well, look, nobody knows better than Jensen. He says there's not a defense concern, that it's not going to go into weaponry. I think when you look at the chips that are approved, they are prior. The H20 is it's kind of like ancient, but the fact that it's still better than what Huawei has is pretty impressive. And then the new RTX Pro that he put out doesn't have the HBM content, so it really means they're going to use it in the digital twins, in certain industrial use cases. So, of course, there could be nefarious efforts which are bound to happen in some way, maybe, but it's not like they're selling them the best stuff, and they are trying to make the use cases at least pretty targeted, and they're doing the best they can. And by the way, though, what's the alternative? You have a Huawei stack, and everybody learns whatever software Huawei uses and the architecture and starts to design around it. Then they go to Europe and start selling that to our allies. That becomes a national security concern if the Chinese state entity is selling to everybody in the world. We cannot let that happen, because if China's running the AI of Europe and the Middle East, what does that say about the United States? So I think the administration should be applauded for thinking hey, let's not give them too much, but not too little, because we can't afford for them to export that technology to our allies.
Does AMD get to ride this dynamic as well?
Yeah, well, the AMD situation is a little different, right? Because what's happening, even outside of China, is inferencing is so big. The use of AI and the reasoning models, and so it's so big. Our thesis on AMD is, how could they? Lisa Su's real. She's great. She's very compelling. Nothing against Jensen, but how do they not get 5% share of the market? Not even 10. If they get 5% of the market in 2028, that's $25 billion in GPU sales. That's $9.50, $10 in earnings. So our bet on AMD is they have a good product. It's really good for inferencing, and people are going to give them a look. So we're hearing, Meta's a little more interested in some of the new stuff. XAI. OpenAI, really interested. So our thesis there. Now, China, for them, it could be add 20% plus to their AI revenue, but they just have the old chip they were selling. We need to hear about more chips to get more confident, but it's great for AMD. Don't get me wrong, it's great for AMD.
Jensen made some comments last week about how AI would displace labor. Does it jibe with your general thesis? Because his take is that, as he put it, you're not going to lose your job to AI, you'll lose your job to someone who uses AI.
Well, I think that I wrote a piece today about OpEx at the tech leaders who are the ones adopting AI just really going down, and I actually think it accelerates down. So OpEx as a percent of sales. The thing that's in right now is keeping OpEx flat, growing your sales, and pocketing the leverage. And we think that it's just beginning. AI agents are going to explode that. And as a public company, any public company outside of tech, you're going to go, I got to do that because that guy's stock's going up. And we think it's just getting started. Agents are just going to be able to do this. And what it's going to do is it's going to reduce your software seats. So seat-based models are threatened, and outcome-based models are rewarded. And what that means is infrastructure software could do better, but it really just means keep buying NVIDIA, guys. They're going to power the AI models. They're going to win. Maybe keep buying the clouds who are going to host all and deploy it. But the SaaS guys, it's going to be tough because those seats, at a very least, don't grow ever again. You heard it.
Okay. So
the company that makes the semiconductors powering much of the AI revolution and all the capital spending that we talked about yesterday in Pittsburgh is a little startup by the name of NVIDIA. You might have heard about it. Well, yesterday it said it would be receiving approval from the American government to resume selling some of its chips to China. Now, NVIDIA stock continues to be red hot. It just crossed the $4 trillion market cap threshold last week. But that positive news has some on Wall Street already looking at how quickly NVIDIA can hit $5 trillion. Do I hear 6? Hearing how to break down what it might mean for this NVIDIA and everything else is CNBC Tech Check co-anchor Deirdre Bosa. And Deirdre, here's what's interesting. Yesterday, Howard Lutnick, I pressed him on NVIDIA. I think you heard this. And he said, well, we're allowing them to sell the 4th best NVIDIA chip to China. Is that how others would characterize the, what is it, the H20?
Yeah. The H20, I mean, it is not even close to any of NVIDIA's best chips. But, you know, the Chinese have done a really good job around optimizing around older hardware, and that's why the H20 is valuable in China. But what I would say when we talk about this sort of NVIDIA picture and what makes Wall Street so bullish, talking about 5, and you're not crazy to say $6 trillion, Brian, at this point, it's not just about chips, it's about the whole NVIDIA ecosystem. We talked about this yesterday, but the CUDA software has been so critical to NVIDIA's continued success and continued dominance, and that's also why the Chinese are prepared to take this less performant H20 chip, because it operates on the software, and that's what everyone is building on, right? So that has been extremely positive for NVIDIA. And even without China, I mean, the China headlines when they couldn't sell, I mean, it was a huge hit, billions and billions of dollars, yet NVIDIA still continued to do well because it's only a small part of the story. There's inference, right? That comes after training. Once you have the models, it's about how much the models are being used by enterprise, by consumers every single day. That is just like a hockey stick going up and up. So it has inference in its favor. It has the huge CapEx you mentioned, Brian. All these companies, you had Zuckerberg this week saying he wants to spend hundreds of billions of dollars in compute capacity. We know Google's doing the same thing. You've got Project Stargate with OpenAI and Oracle. You just got a lot going in its favor. And even though there's more competition in this phase of the AI race, inference versus training, it's NVIDIA's ecosystem that keeps it so dominant, not just in China, but everywhere in the world, and its rate of progress, of course.
And Meta, Facebook, Zuckerberg, announcing 2 days ago that they wanted to build these new super data centers, 5 gigawatts, and we were talking about it with the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, also yesterday, because gigawatts, megawatts, kilowatts, all very confusing. He put it well. He said that's 5 Denvers worth of power.
It's wild.
In one building. I would imagine that building is going to be filled with NVIDIA chips.
It's also a little bit of a pipe dream. We don't have, and you know this better than anyone, Brian, we don't have the energy capacity to actually build that out right now. And that is where we get to maybe some cracks in the story, right? I mean, there's all of these intentions, but also Zuckerberg has said that he's going to do huge build outs for the metaverse just to walk it back. And there's so much uncertainty around here about how they get to that level, how they even get the energy and the chips possible to produce 5 Denvers worth of compute capacity. And then I'll also just mention the ASML results this morning. I mean, another crack in the AI bull case here as well. What are they seeing? Their biggest customers in the world are the companies that are making these chips, TSMC, Samsung, Intel. Are they not ordering the equipment necessary to make them? So are they seeing something different than what investors and Wall Street are seeing? So, while people are talking about NVIDIA to $5 trillion already, it may not be such a straight shot.
Dan, it's Tim. People were throwing popcorn on the floor today at ASML. How do you explain the guide there? And again, they would be more emblematic of the infrastructure around tech and obviously the picks and shovels. And it was an awful guide.
Yeah, it was. And look, and obviously, Tim, I think this is going to be a little uneven as this all plays out. But I like when I look at ASML, like that's when I'd actually be a buyer on this type of, sort of reaction. I think overall semis, in terms of everything that we see over the next, call it 3-6 months, is going to have a massive move higher. Because right now, demand to supply is still 10-1 when it comes to AI and it comes to chips from NVIDIA. That's all from our checks in Taiwan. And that's why we believe any of these sell-offs, they should be bought.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. NVIDIA finished the day about 0.4% higher. NVIDIA traded just slightly lower at the open after ASML issued weaker than expected guidance. ASML provides machinery to TSMC, and TSMC manufactures NVIDIA's chips. I do not view this as anything to be concerned about when it comes to NVIDIA right now. As we've spoken about many times over the past couple days or so, NVIDIA being allowed to sell the H20 in China is massively positive for NVIDIA as it unlocks many billions of dollars in future revenue. I do want to mention something important because I've seen some accounts on social media circulating an article that claims NVIDIA is just going to sell the remaining H20 inventory but not produce any more H20s. According to the Global Times, Jensen said, while in Beijing, that NVIDIA will try to ramp up H20 production in the next few months. If that is correct, then it would appear that NVIDIA will produce more H20s. And to be completely honest, I think they are likely to produce more H20s as they have the assurance from the US government that those are allowed to be sold in China. At some point in the future, NVIDIA will likely launch a new chip in China, but whether or not that new chip will be approved by the US government is unknown. NVIDIA does have assurance that the H20 will be allowed, and therefore, I think they will increase H20 production in the next few months as reported by the Global Times. The good news is that NVIDIA does already have some H20 inventory ready to go. We know this because NVIDIA had to take a $4.5 billion write-down mainly on H20 inventory when the export control was announced earlier this year. And so as soon as the licenses are approved, NVIDIA can start delivering H20s to customers in China, which is good news. And in case you haven't been following this story, I just want to remind you that the H20 is substantially lower spec than NVIDIA's Blackwell, and it is in the United States' best interest to keep Chinese developers on NVIDIA's CUDA platform. China is home to half of the world's AI developers, and wherever the developers go, those are the platforms that succeed. We saw it with Microsoft, Apple, and now NVIDIA. Speaking of CUDA, it does not get enough attention in the financial press as it is such a massive advantage to NVIDIA. NVIDIA's software offerings in CUDA provide developers with the confidence that whatever they build will run effectively. And because we're in an AI race wherein companies want to build the best models and apps as fast as possible, they do not want to waste months of time trying to learn how to develop on a different platform. If they build on CUDA, they want to stay on CUDA, and that is massively beneficial to NVIDIA maintaining their competitive moat. Don't get me wrong, I do think there's plenty of room for other companies like AMD and Broadcom to succeed. At the same time, NVIDIA is without a doubt the dominant AI infrastructure company, and their competitive moat remains in place as they have taken a total system approach and drive efficiencies at every part of the system, both hardware and software, and not just the chip. Looking ahead, we have hyperscaler earnings with Alphabet starting things off next week on the 23rd. I expect Meta and Alphabet to both have strong CapEx guidance. Amazon and Microsoft are the two hyperscalers that I have less visibility on when it comes to this specific earnings season, but I would expect them to report strong CapEx guidance given the very strong AI demand and rising competition that we're seeing. I really like the setup for NVIDIA in the second half of this year, and I think we're likely to see strong third and fourth quarters from NVIDIA. Blackwell has ramped swiftly, and it accounted for 70% of NVIDIA's data center revenue back in Q1. Blackwell Ultra has launched. Production should really start to ramp up in Q3, and it should ramp very quickly, much faster than Blackwell. After Blackwell has ramped, we should see margins move back up to the mid 70% range late this fiscal year as NVIDIA projected. I want to quickly remind you that this is not a short-term fad. This is a multi-year trend. We have a clear data center product roadmap that stretches through 2028 with a new product release each year. NVIDIA is delivering performance upgrades that directly increase their customers' AI revenues by such a large amount that they have no choice but to continue buying NVIDIA's latest products in large quantities. And Jensen believes the world's computing CapEx will reach $1 trillion annually by 2030. And on top of all of this, we have massive sovereign AI deals, NVIDIA's future in quantum computing, and NVIDIA bringing AI to the world's enterprise IT, which Jensen believes is an opportunity worth hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not a fad. This is a multi-year trend that I believe is still in the early innings. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.